Marilyn Monroe's life and persona have been used in film, television, music, the arts, and by other celebrities. Advertising. Absolute Vodka, Absolute Marilyn, 1995, by Chiat, Day. Benetton, United Superstars of Benetton, 1998, paired Monroe with Joan of Arc. Roberto Cavalli, Spring Collection, 2009, with Daria Werboe. Canal Plus Sweden, Sport or Film, 2005. Československa obchodna banka, Marilyn, 2008, by MUW Saatchi and Saatchi. Chanel No. 5, 1994, Carol Bouquet morphs into Monroe. Christian Dior, J'adore Parfum, 2011, featuring Charlize Theron. Citibank, The X, 2012, featuring Giada De Laurentiis, and Alicia Keys. Citroën, DS3, 2010, Dolce & Gabbana, 2009, with Scarlett Johansson. DSW, The Savvy Shoe Lovers, 2013, a woman apes the subway great pose from the 7-year itch. Fiat, Fiat Nuova 500, 2007, Gap, Gap Khakis, 1993, GoDaddy, Super Bowl 44, 2010, Danica Patrick apes Monroe. HSBC, Marilyn, 2008, by JWT. Hubba Bubba, Interactive Poster, 2008, by DDB Sydney. Imperial Chemical Industries Dulux, Paint, 2005, Levi Strauss & Co., Our Models Can Beat Up Your Models, 1998, by Chiat, Day. Library of Congress Experience, 2008, MasterCard, Break in Your Jeans, 2009, by McCann Erickson. Mercedes-Benz, GLK Class, 2008, Net Cervicos, TV Campaign, 2002, Nike, Dialogue, 1991, by Whedon plus Kennedy. Procter & Gamble, Tampax, 2006, by Vitruvio. Leo Burnett, Reckitt Benckiser, Veet Hair Removal Cream, 2006, by JWT Brazil. Science World, We Can Explain, 2006, by Rethink. Sunsilk, Life Can't Wait, 2008. Unilever, Close-Up Toothpaste, 2001, by JWT. Visa, Signature Card, 2004, by BBDO. Volkswagen, 2004. Yuhan, Rapicold, 2006, by Diamond Ogilvy. Animation, Nightmare Hair, Bugs Bunny squares off against Wizard Merlin of Monroe. The Pebbles and Bam Bam Show, Cindy Curbstone is patterned after Monroe. Architecture, Absolute World, Building 4 and Building 5 are nicknamed Marilyn Monroe. Art, William Anastasi, Untitled, 1995, and Untitled, 1996. Clive Barker, M.M., 1999. Peter Hillbeard, Marilyn Monroe, 1972. Pierre Belloc, Canvas of Stars mural for Gallagher's Steakhouse, 2006. Maurice Bennett, Marilyn Monroe, 2011. Pierre Bismuth, Following the Right Hand of Marilyn Monroe in Some Like It Hot, 2005. Following the Right Hand of Marilyn Monroe in The Misfits, 2006. Peter Blake, Marilyn Monroe over a painting number 1, 1989-1990. Marilyn Monroe wall number 2, Red Yellow, 1990. M for Marilyn Monroe, HOMAGE, 1991. Pauline Bataille, The Only Blonde in the World, 1963. Charles Bragg, Chasen's Jockey Club. Marcel Bredthayers, Tour Marilyn, 1965. Eric Bulatov, Marilyn, 2000. Philip Burke, Marilyn Monroe, 2003. Silvano Campega, Marilyn Monroe, 1957. Nano in Marilyn's Eyes, 2000. Reginald Case, Tropical Marilyn, First Version X and Flowers. Marilyn Green Dress. Christo, Wrapped Magazine Marilyn, 1962. Bruce Conner, Marilyn x5. Salvador Dali, Self-Portrait, 1967. Mao Monroe, 1972. Marilyn Monroe Installation. Alan D'Arcangelo, Marilyn, 1962. Marilyn Found, 1962. Olivia de Berardinis, Marilyn Monroe Nude, 1990. Marilyn, 1991. Poofy Print IV, Jerry de la Cruz, Monroe, 2002. Willem de Kooning, Marilyn Monroe, 1954. Devin Dykhow, Marilyn Monroe wanted to be buried in Poochie Installation, 2008. Dolk, Pope Benedict as Marilyn Monroe, 2011. Arrow, Daydream, The Forgotten Future, House of Gore, Not Far Enough, Your Love Don't Pay My Bills, Sad Movies Make Me Cry, 2001. Jim Evans, Marilyn Monroe, 1991. Shepard Fairey, Marilyn Warhol, 2000. Charles Fazzino, Forever Marilyn, 1998. Love and Kisses, Marilyn, 2008. Audrey Flack, Marilyn, Golden Girl, 1978. Howard Finster, Marilyn Monroe, 1999. James Jill, Marilyn Triptych, 1962. Pink Marilyn, 2008. Douglas Gordon, Self-Portrait as Kurt Cobain as Andy Warhol as Myra Hindley as Marilyn Monroe, 1996. Vladimir Gorsky, Marilyn Monroe. Richard Hamilton, My Marilyn, 1966. Keith Haring, Marilyn Monroe, 1981. Margaret Harrison, Anonymous was a woman from Rosa Luxemburg to Janis Joplin, 1977. Gottfried Helnwein, Boulevard of Broken Dreams, 1984, Marilyn, 1992, Al Hirschfeld, 1954, Movies, 1954, Jonathan Horowitz, Talking Without Thinking, 2001, Robert Indiana, The Metamorphosis of Norma Jean, 1998, Marilyn, 1999, Sunburst Marilyn, 2001, John Seward Johnson 2, Forever Marilyn, 2011, Ray Johnson, Dear Marilyn Monroe, 1972, Dear Marilyn Monroe, Chuck Close, 1980, Alan Jones, Marilyn Monroe, 1961, Steve Kaufman, Marilyn Monroe State, 1995 to 1999, Pop Marilyn, Barbara Kruger, Not Stupid Enough, 1997, Sebastian Kruger, Marilyn Monroe, David LaChapelle, Amanda Lepore as Andy Warhol's Marilyn, 2007, Jean-Jacques Label, Taking a Real Good Peek at Marilyn's Amazing Offer, 1961, Zoe Leonard, Marilyn, 1990 to 1995, Richard Lindner, Marilyn Was Here, 1970, Gina Lolo Brigida, My Friend, Marilyn Monroe, 2003, Bob Mackie, Marilyn Monroe, 1977, Christopher Makos, Andy Warhol Looks Like Marilyn Monroe, 1982, Andy Warhol, I'm Not Marilyn Monroe, 1982, Altered Images, 1982, Louis Marchetti, Marilyn Monroe, Derek Marlowe, A Slight Misfit, 1962, Earl Moran, Lady in the Light, 1945, Yasumasa Morimura, Self-Portrait, 1995, Red Marilyn, 1995, Mr. Brainwash, Marilyn Monroe, 2008, Spock, Marilyn Monroe, 2009, Andy Warhol, Marilyn Monroe, 2009, Nolita Mural, 2010, Vic Muniz, Marilyn, After Andy Warhol, 2001, Bloody Marilyn, 2001, Marilyn, Pictures of Diamonds, 2004, Leroy Neiman, The President's Birthday, 1962, Shelley Nero, The 500-Year Itch, 1992, Claes Oldenburg, Ghost Wardrobe, 4mm, 1967, Eduardo Pelosi, Bash, 1971, Dear Marilyn Monroe, Ed Pashka, Pink Lady 2, 1993, Pier Paolo Pasolini, La Rabbia, 1963, Guy Pilaert, Marilyn Monroe, 1994 to 1999, Raymond Pettibon, No Title, 1990 to 2003, Paul Pfeiffer, Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, 1, 2000, Peter Phillips, For Men Only, starring MM and BB, 1961, Arnulf Rainer, Mythos Marilyn Series, 2002, Mel Ramos, Peekaboo Series, 2002, Robert Rauschenberg, Test Stone 1, 1967, Tom Richmond, Marilyn Monroe, 1998, Faith Ringgold, Marilyn Monroe, 1997, James Rosenquist, Marilyn Monroe I, 1962, Mimo Rotella, Marilyn Monroe, 1962, Marilyn Decollage, 1964, Iville T, 1998, Marilyn II, 1979, La Magnifica Preta, 2004, George Siegel, The Film Poster, 1967, Richard Serra, Marilyn Monroe Greta Garbo, 1981, Cindy Sherman, Untitled, 1986, Roger Shimamura, Heroin, Hammer, Hibachi, 1987, Hajime Sorayama, Sexy Robot in Yellow, album cover of Aerosmith's Just Push Play, Daniel Spoera, The Spirit of Marilyn Captured by Merlin, 2003, Merlin Meets Marilyn, 2003, Der Teddy Bar von MM, 2003, John Stongo, Marilyn Monroe, 2010, Brett Livingstone Strong, Tribute to Marilyn Monroe, 1989, Harold Town, Superstar, 1970, Jacques Villeglay, Marilyn, 1982, Wolf Vostell, Marilyn Monroe, 1962, Eric Wall, Untitled, 2012, Bought by Pink, Carrie Waghorn, Marilyn Monroe, Petrus Wandry, Memento Marilyn Monroe, 2003, Andy Warhol, Marilyn Diptych, 25 Colored Marilyns, 1962, Shot Marilyns, Tom Wesselman, Marilyn in Bed, 1984, Stephen B. Whitley, 40th Anniversary Tribute, 2002, John Whitcomb, Untitled, 1958, owned by Joe DiMaggio, cover and illustrations for the March 1959 Cosmopolitan, Susan Dorothea White, The Crowning with Sexism, 1994, Willard Wiggin, Marilyn Monroe on a Diamond, 2007-2008, James Dillon Wright, Model Monroe, 2011, Erwin Worm, Thinking About Marilyn, 2003, Jean-Pierre Avarel, Marilyn Monroe Series, 1990-1994, Zevs, Visual Violation, Marilyn Monroe, 2011, see also, Marilyn in Art Roger Taylor, ed. Chaucer Press, 2006, ISBN 1-904957-02-1, ISBN 978-1-904957-02-7, see also, Elvis Plus plus Marilyn, 2x Immortal Jerry DiPaoli, ed. Rizzoli, 1994, ISBN 0-8478-1840-3. Celebrities as Monroe, Christina Aguilera, for the June 2006 GQ, Drew Barrymore, for the September 1996 George, Beyoncé, for the May 2014 Out, Laura Bingle, for the August 2008 Australian Cosmopolitan, Hillary Clinton, retouched photo aping the Subway great pose from the 7-year itch on the October 1995 Spy, Cindy Crawford, Daryl Hannah, Ashley Judd, and Heather Locklear, for the May, June 1997 American Photo, Miley Cyrus, for the March 2014 German Vogue, James Franco, at the 83rd Academy Awards, French and Saunders, ape 2 little girls from Little Rock from Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, Jade Goody, as Marilyn Diptych for the Daily Star, Rudolph Giuliani, for the 1997 New York Inner Circle Press Dinner, Paris Hilton, for the August 2010 launch of her perfume, Tease, Nicole Kidman, for the March 2008 Harper's Bazaar Australia, Lindsay Lohan, recreated The Last Sitting with photographer Bert Stern for the February 25, 2008 New York, for the July 2009 Vogue Espana, for the January, February 2012 Playboy, Jennifer Lopez, aped Happy Birthday, Mr. President on the April 22, 2010 Lopez Tonight, Madonna, for the April 1991 Vanity Fair shot by Stephen Meisel, Kylie Minogue, regularly performs as Monroe, Andrea Pejek, Marilyn off-duty shoot for the October 2011 Love Cat magazine, Lisa Marie Presley, for her Brits and made up by Kevin O'Coin, Britney Spears, performed If You See Amy as Monroe on her Femme Fatale tour. The 7-year itch Subway great pose has been aped by numerous celebrities, including Annalise Brockenseek, Melissa George, Jerry Halliwell, Anna Kournikova, Tiffany Pollard, Samantha Riley, and Anna Nicole Smith. Sungman, in Super Show 4. Editorial cartoons. Michael Ramirez. Ali Khamenei apes the Subway great pose from the 7-year itch, June 23, 2009. Monroe as the national debt croons Happy Birthday, Mr. President, August 5, 2009. John Roberts apes the Subway great pose from the 7-year itch, June 25, 2015. Don Wright, Earth weeps as Monroe's star streaks across the heavens. The Miami News, August 6, 1962. Fashion, Dolce & Gabbana, Fall-Winter 2009-2010 collection. Betsy Johnson, Mary Lynn tote bag line. MAC Cosmetics, Marilyn Monroe collection. Macy's, Marilyn Monroe collection. Monroe piercings. Nike, Warhol, Monroe Air Max 90, 2009. Pink dress of Marilyn Monroe, 6126 by Lindsay Lohan, named after Monroe's birthdate. Warnaco Group, Warner's Marilyn Monroe Intimate Apparel line, 1996. White dress of Marilyn Monroe. See also, Marilyn in Fashion, The Enduring Influence of Marilyn Monroe by Christopher Nickens and George Zano, Running Press, 2012, ISBN 0-762445-10-6, ISBN 978-0-762445-10-3. Film, The Apartment, Dobish tells Baxter he's trying to pick up a girl who looks like Monroe. The girl apes Monroe. Back to the Future Part 2. A photo shows Biff with Monroe. Blades of Glory. Fairchild skates as Monroe from the 7-year itch. Blonde Ambition. Katie apes the Subway great pose from the 7-year itch. Bordello of Blood. Lilith apes the Subway great pose from the 7-year itch. Broken Embraces. Lena apes Monroe. Bruce Almighty. Bruce makes a girl ape the Subway great pose from the 7-year itch. Cape Fear. The Bowden family's dog is named Marilyn. Capote. Capote tells a reporter about a visit he paid to Monroe. Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen. Lola is dressed as Monroe from the 7-year itch in a fantasy sequence. Cool World. Holly sings the title song of Let's Make Love. Deck the Halls. The Finches Christmas Tree Angel apes the Subway great pose from the 7-year itch. Fade to Black. Binford is obsessed with Monroe. Finding Graceland. Byron and Elvis meet a Monroe look-alike. The Goddess, based loosely on Monroe's life. Grease 2. Paulette is obsessed with Monroe and John F. Kennedy's alleged affair. Happy Feet. Nicole Kidman's character is named Norma Jean. Hercules. Amuse apes the Subway great pose from the 7-year itch. The House Bunny. Shelley apes Monroe from the 7-year itch. I Heart Huckabees. Don apes Happy Birthday, Mr. President in a Huckabees ad. Insignificance. The actress is based on Monroe. L.A. Confidential. A call girl has been cut to look like Monroe. The Ladies' Man. A girl Hebert delivers mail to apes Monroe. A Life Less Ordinary. Lewis works on a novel about Monroe and Robert F. Kennedy's love child. Life or Something Like It. Lainey cites Monroe as one of her idols. Little Voice. LV mimics Monroe's voice. Man on Fire. Rayburn owns a statue of Monroe aping the Subway great pose from the 7-year itch. Minnie's First Time. Minnie unwittingly apes the Subway great pose from the 7-year itch. The Misfits. Rosalind tries to keep Guido from looking at photos of Monroe gay taped inside a closet. Mr. Lonely. Samantha Morton's character claims to be Monroe. Monkeybone. Monkeybone impersonates Monroe. Monster. Aileen recalls her childhood childhood dream of being the next Monroe. My Week with Marilyn, a 2011 British drama film starring Michelle Williams as Monroe. Pulp Fiction, a waitress is dressed as Monroe from The 7-Year Itch. The 7-Year Itch, the girl's photo in U.S. camera is a reference to Monroe's nude calendar. When Mackenzie asks about the blonde in the kitchen, the girl, Sherman replies, "Oh, wouldn't you like to know? Maybe it's Marilyn Monroe." The Shawshank Redemption, Dufresne has a poster of Monroe in his cell. Shrek 2, the fairy godmother makes Fiona ape the subway great pose from The 7-Year Itch. The Smurfs, Smurfette apes the subway great pose from The 7-Year Itch. Stroker Ace, a pit crew member makes Pembroke ape the subway great pose from The 7-Year Itch. Teaching Mrs. Tingle, Jolene gives her class presentation as Monroe from The 7-Year Itch. The Tigger movie, Tigger dresses as Monroe from The 7-Year Itch. Tommy, the preacher leads a cult based on Monroe. Town and Country, Auburn dresses as Monroe from Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. White Palace, Nora is a Monroe fan. The Woman in Red, Charlotte unwittingly apes the subway great pose from The 7-Year Itch. Wonder Boys, James steals the jacket Monroe wore the day she married Joe DiMaggio from Gaskell, who is obsessed with the DiMaggio-Monroe marriage. Younger and Younger, Younger has a vision of a girl aping Monroe from The 7-Year Itch. Zapped, Barney makes a girl at the prom ape the subway great pose from The 7-Year Itch. See also, imdb.com. Marilyn Monroe, character, page, graphic novels, The Red Diaries by Gary Reed, and Lawrence Campbell, 1997, Son of Celluloid by Clive Barker, 1984, Internet, Epic Rap Battles of History, Cleopatra vs. Marilyn Monroe, Literature, Alva Bessie, The Symbol, based on Monroe's life, 1966, Mort Castle, I Am Your Need, 2001, Douglas Coupland, Polaroids from the Dead, Peter Golenbach, 7, The Mickey Mantle Novel, Monroe has an affair with Mickey Mantle while she is married to Joe DiMaggio, 2007, Edward Gorman, The Marilyn Tapes, 1995, Doris Grumbach, The Missing Person, 1981, Alan Gurganis, Blessed Assurance, 1990, Michael Korda, The Immortals, 1992, Carol Morin, Dead Glamorous, The Autobiography of Seduction and Self-Destruction, 1996, a poetic account of the fascination of charismatic suicides including Marilyn, Ian Curtis and Sylvia Plath, Graham Masterton, Icon, 1982, Norman Mailer, Marilyn, a biography, of women and their elegance, 1980, Joyce Carol Oates, Blonde, and Three Girls, 1996, Andrew O'Hagan, The Life and Opinions of M.A.F. the Dog, and of his friend Marilyn Monroe, 2010, John Recchi, Marilyn's Daughter, 1989, Lee Siegel, who wrote The Book of Love, 2005, see also, Mondo Marilyn, an anthology of fiction and poetry Richard Peabody and Lucinda Ebersole, eds, St. Martin's Press, 1995, ISBN 0-312-11853-8, ISBN 978-0-312-11853-2. See also, Marilyn, Shades of Blonde Carol Nelson Douglas, ed., Tor Books, 1997, ISBN 0-312-85737-3, ISBN 978-0-312-85737-0. Music, Tori Amos, Father Lucifer references Monroe and Joe DiMaggio, Ray Anthony, My Marilyn, Dan Byrne, Marilyn, Blondie, Platinum Blonde references Monroe, Blue System, The Wind Cries, Who Killed Norma Jean, Good Night Marilyn, Bon Jovi, Captain Crash and the Beauty Queen from Mars references Monroe and Joe DiMaggio, David Bowie, Jean Genie references Monroe, Citizen Cope, Healing Hands references Monroe, Sheryl Crow, If It Makes You Happy references Monroe, Culture Club, It's a Miracle references Monroe, Def Leppard, Photograph, Lana Del Rey, Body Electric, Children of the Bad Revolution, The Man I Love, Puppy Love reference Monroe, The Distillers, Gypsy Rose Lee references Monroe, Brian Ferry, Goddess of Love, Alexa Goddard, Marilyn, Grinder Man, Palaces of Montezuma references Monroe and John F. Kennedy, Half Man Half Biscuit, 99 of Gargoyles Look Like Bob Todd references Monroe, Tepo Hatawaho, Edward Vesela, 1973 album Ode to Marilyn, Faith Hill, The Secret of Life references Monroe, Michael Jackson, Tabloid Junkie references Monroe, Jay-Z, Hollywood references Monroe, Billy Joel, We Didn't Start the Fire references Monroe, Elton John, Candle in the Wind, Wrap Her Up, with George Michael, references Monroe, Tommy Keene, My Mother Looked Like Marilyn Monroe, Alicia Keys, Girl on Fire reference Monroe, The Kinks, Celluloid Heroes references Monroe, Kinky Friedman, Marilyn and Joe, Lady Gaga, Dance in the Dark references Monroe, Nothing On But the Radio references Monroe, Government Hooker is about Monroe's alleged affair with John F. Kennedy, Lazen Royal, Marilyn Monroe, Phoebe Legger, Marilyn Monroe, Valerie Leontief, Marilyn, Amanda Lepore, Marilyn, Jennifer Lopez, featuring Nas, I'm Gonna Be Alright references Monroe and Joe DiMaggio, Madonna, Vogue references Monroe, Man from Del Monte, Beautiful People references Monroe and Joe DiMaggio, Marilyn Manson and his band is taken from Monroe and Charles Manson, Marina and the Diamonds, State of Dreaming references Monroe, Metallica, The Memory Remains, Say Yes, At Least Say Hello is a reference to the Misfits, Nicki Minaj, Marilyn Monroe, The Misfits, Who Killed Marilyn, the band takes its name from the Misfits, Norma Jean, takes its name from Monroe's real name, Norma Jean, Roland Orzabal, Dandelion references Monroe, Brianna Perry, Marilyn Monroe, Perez Prado, Marilyn Monroe Mambo, Los Prisioneros, Key Acute and Motto a Marilyn, Brian Prothero, Pinball references Monroe, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Wet Sand references her as Norma Jean, Rihanna, Love Without Tragedy, Mother Mary references Monroe, Kelly Rowland, Stoll references Monroe, Brian Setzer Orchestra, Americano references Monroe, Monroe is on the cover of SGT, Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, Sleeper, Romeo Me references Monroe and Joe DiMaggio, Spice Girls, The Lady is a Vamp references Monroe, Stereophonics, She Takes Her Clothes Off references Monroe, Suede, Heroin references Monroe, Keith Urban, John Cougar, John Deere, John Chapter 3 verse 16 references Monroe, Tiffany, Kiss the Ground references Monroe, Geordie Towers, Don't Say It's Over references Monroe, Tom Waits, Jitterbug Boy, A Sweet Little Bullet from a Pretty Blue Gun reference Monroe, Pharrell Williams, Marilyn Monroe, Robbie Williams, the actor references Monroe, music videos, Christina Aguilera, Ain't No Other Man, Pat Benatar, Sex as a Weapon, features archival footage of Monroe, Mariah Carey, Don't Forget About Us, apes Monroe's swimming pool scene from Something's Got to Give, I Still Believe, recreates Monroe's 1954 performance for troops in Korea, Def Leppard, Photograph, an actress is glammed up as Monroe from the 7-Year Itch, Lana Del Rey, National Anthem, Del Rey apes Monroe's Happy Birthday, Mr. President, The Human League, Love Action, features archival footage of Monroe and Arthur Miller, Amanda Lepore, Marilyn, Lepore apes Monroe, Elton John, in Neon, features Monroe's Hollywood Walk of Fame star, Kool and the Gang, Fresh, the fairy godmother is glammed up as Monroe, Cyndi Lauper, Girls Just Wanna Have Fun, a girl has a poster of Monroe on her wall, Madonna, Material Girl, apes the diamonds are a girl's best friend sequence from Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, She, MIA, and Nicki Minaj dress as Monroe in Give Me All Your Lovin', Marina and the Diamonds, Hollywood, features a Monroe look-alike, Kylie Minogue, Two Hearts dresses as Monroe from Some Like It Hot, Opera, Marilyn, 1980, by Lorenzo Ferrero, Marilyn, 1993, by Ezra Laderman and Norman Rawson for the New York City Opera, Anyone Can See I Love You, 2010, by Marilyn Bowering and Gavin Bryars, Photography, Slim Aarons, Richard Avedon, Eve Arnold, Luis Carlos Barreto, George Barris, Peter Bash, Cecil Beaton, Otto Bettman, Carlisle Blackwell, Cornell Kappa, Jack Cardiff, Jock Carroll, Henry Cartier-Bresson, Larry Burrows, Ed Clark, William Claxton, Howell Conant, David Conover, Bruce Davidson, Loomis Dean, Alfred Eisenstadt, John Engstead, Elliot Erwitt, J.R. Eierman, Robert Frank, Bert Glynn, Alan Grant, Milton H. Green, Ernst Haas, Felipe Halsman, Eric Hartman, Bob Enriquez, John Howard, Frank Hurley, George Horrell, Joseph Jasger, Tom Kelly, Douglas Kirkland, Herman Leonard, Harold Lloyd, Lee Lockwood, Jacques Lowe, Arthur Marks, G.J.O.N. Milley, Richard C. Miller, Earl Moran, Inge Morith, Nicholas Murray, William B. Murphy, Arnold Newman, Gordon Parks, Willie Rizzo, Herb Scharfman, Lawrence Schiller, Paul Schutzer, George Silk, Peter Stackpole, Len Steckler, Bert Stern, Phil Stern, Dennis Stock, Cecil W. Stoughton, Bob Thomas, Gene Trindle, John Vachon, Delmar Watson, Ouija, Dan Weiner, Lee Weiner, Laszlo Willinger, Bob Willoughby, Gary Winogrand, William Woodfield, Frank Worth, and Jerome Zerbe were among the photographers who shot Monroe. The American Masters documentary Marilyn Monroe, Still Life claims that she was the most photographed person in history. American Photo May, June 1997 issue was devoted to Monroe. See also, Marilyn Monroe by Eve Arnold, Harry N. Abrams, 2005, ISBN 0-8109-5933-X, ISBN 978-0-8109-5933-0. See also, Marilyn Monroe and the Camera by George Belmont, Tenoyas Publishing, 2000, ISBN 3-8238-5467-4, ISBN 978-3-8238-5467-8. See also, Marilyn by André Dedin as Steve Christ, ed. Toshin, 2002, ISBN 3-8228-1199-8, ISBN 978-3-8228-1199-3. See also, Life, Remembering Marilyn, 2009, ISBN 1-60320-079-7, ISBN 978-1-60320-079-0. See also, The Last Sitting by Bert Stern. See also, Marilyn, Norma Jean by Gloria Steinem with George Barris. Poetry. Sherman Alexie, Tourists Poem Series, 1997. Stephen Burkhoff, You Remind Me of Marilyn Monroe, 2009. Frank Bidart, Marilyn Monroe, 2006. Marilyn Bowering, Anyone Can See I Love You, 1987. Ernesto Cardinal, Marilyn Monroe, 1975. Victor D. Suvero, Marilyn, My Marilyn, 2003. Judy Gran, I Have Come to Claim Marilyn Monroe's Body, 1971. Lynn Lifshing, Marilyn Monroe, 1994. Edwin Morgan, The Death of Marilyn Monroe, 1982. Sharon Olds, The Death of Marilyn Monroe, 1984. Norman Rawson, Who Killed Norma Jean, 1963. Delmore Schwartz, Love and Marilyn Monroe. John Whitworth, Making Love to Marilyn Monroe, 1990. Polls. E. Sex Symbol of the Century, 1999. Empire, Sexiest Female Movie Star, 1995. Ladies' Home Journal, 100 Most Important Women of the 20th Century, 1998. People, Sexiest Woman of the Century, 1999. Playboy, One Sex Star of the Century, 1998. Premiere, Two Greatest Movie Star of All Time, 2005. Time, 100 Most Important People of the 20th Century, 1998. Popular Culture, Betty Boop. Collectibles, Lego, Minifigures Series 9. Hollywood Starlet is modeled after Monroe. Mattel, Barbie as Marilyn. Marion McKnight, aped Monroe in the talent portion of the 1957 Miss America pageant. Television, Angelina Ballerina, The Next Steps. Angelina's gift for Ms. Mimi. A gust of wind makes Angelina ape the subway great pose from the 7-year itch. Animaniacs, Method to Her Madness. Slappy and Skippy attend a method acting class Monroe is in. The Beverly Hillbillies, The Clampetts Go Hollywood. Ellie Mae glams up as Monroe. Cagney and Lacey, Jane Doe 37. A girl Cagney and Lacey arrest gives her name as Norma Jean Baker. The name Monroe was known as growing up. Clone High, Monroe hangs out at the grassy knoll with Nostradamus. Criminal Minds, Reflections of Desire. Garcia quotes Monroe. The Critic, Marathon Mensch, Jay imagines himself as a Monroe impersonator aping the subway great pose from the 7-year itch. Desperate Housewives, Excited and Scared, Renee dresses as Monroe from the 7-year itch for Halloween. Dexter's Laboratory, Blonde leading the blonde, Dexter apes the subway great pose from the 7-year itch. Doctor Who, A Christmas Carol, the doctor becomes engaged to Monroe. Elvis tells his mother she is more beautiful than Monroe. The Ernie Kovach Show, Edie Adams regularly aped Monroe. Frasier, Room Full of Heroes, Martin, as Joe DiMaggio, references Monroe. Daphne, as Elton John, references Candle in the Wind. Full House, Mad Money, Jesse brings home a Monroe impersonator. Futurama, I Dated a Robot, a teenager makes out with Marilyn Monroe. Gilligan's Island, the producer, Ginger glams up as Monroe. Gilmore Girls, Red Light on the Wedding Night, a waiter at the club Lorelai has her bachelorette party is dressed as Monroe from the 7-year itch. Golden Girls, Letters to Gorbachev, Blanche apes Happy Birthday, Mr. President to Mikhail Gorbachev. Growing Pains, Happy Halloween. Part 2, a character dresses as Monroe. Happy Endings, Spooky Endings, Alex dresses as Monroe from the 7-year itch for a Halloween party. Heart of Dixie, Walkin', After Midnight, Lemon dresses as Monroe from the 7-year itch for a Halloween party. The Honeymooners, A Woman's Work is Never Done, Ralph references Monroe. I Love Lucy, Ricky's Movie Offer, Lucy and Ethel think the script sent to Ricky has a Monroe-type part in it, and ask Fred which one of them looks more like her. Lucy glams up as Monroe. Jessie, Ghost Bummer, Jessie dresses as Monroe for Halloween. Keeping Up with the Kardashians, Paparazzi and Papas, Khloe asks her grandmother's prospective dates if they like Monroe. Last Man Standing, Adrenaline, Mike references Monroe on his webcast. Law and Order, Criminal Intent, Bombshell, a prescription bottle found by Logan and Wheeler is made out to Monroe's birth name. Norma Mortensen, Merritt references Monroe. Love, Marilyn, Mad Men, Maiden Form, Monroe and Jackie Kennedy inspire the agency's campaign for Playtex. 6-month leave, Monroe's death affects Hollis, Joan, and the Office Girls. Married, with children, It's a Bundyful Life. Al asks his guardian angel if Monroe is laughing at him because he caved to Peg's demand that he toss out his Playboys. M*KSH, Bombshells, Hawkeye and Charles start a rumor that Monroe is coming to the 4077 to thank the staff for caring for her cousin. The name's the same. November 19, 1952, a Constance actual name is Marilyn Monroe. January 12, 1954, two Constance actual names are Marilyn Monroe and Joe DiMaggio. June 22, 1954, Van Johnson's secret wishes for Marilyn to sit on his lap. August 31, 1954, Charles Coburn's secret wishes to dance the rumba with Monroe as he did in Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. NCIS. Kill Ari. Part 1. Dinozo has Caitlin ape the subway great pose from the 7-year itch in his fantasy. Minimum security. Ducky tells Abby his mother wears nothing to bed but Chanel no. 5 Ever since Monroe said it's the only thing she wears to bed. Witch hunt. Abby dresses as Monroe from the 7-year itch for Halloween. Nip. Tuck. Joyce and Sharon Monroe. 2 Monroe lookalikes want to look more like her. 1 Tree Hill. Pictures of you. Brooke impersonates Monroe for a class assignment. Phil Spector. Spector speculates on Monroe's death during his first meeting with Linda. Quantum Leap. Goodbye Norma Jean. Sam leaps into the body of Monroe's chauffeur. Quincy. Emmy. A star is dead. Quincy investigates the death of a Monroe-like movie star. The Real Ghostbusters. Janine. You've changed. Janine insinuates that she has claimed Monroe. Roseanne. Skeleton in the closet. Nancy dresses as Monroe for the diner's Halloween party. Saturday Night Live. Terry Garr played Monroe with Joe Piscopo as John F. Kennedy. Season 9. Episode 5. Mary Gross played Monroe as a recurring character. 1981 to 1985. Madonna played Monroe. Season 11. Episode 1. Aped Happy Birthday, Mr. President. Season 18. Episode 11. Charlize Theron as Monroe with Jimmy Fallon as Joe DiMaggio. Season 26. Episode 4. Saved by the Bell. Slater's sister. Zach references Monroe. Seinfeld. The Note. George references Monroe after Kramer claims he saw Joe DiMaggio at Dinky Donuts. Sex and the City. To market. Samantha's change purse has Monroe's face from Marilyn diptych on it. The Simpsons. The Homer They Fall. A picture of Monroe is on a jacket. Rosebud. Smithers imagines Mr. Burns singing happy birthday to you to him a happy birthday, Mr. President. A slide photo of Mr. Burns shows him aping the subway great pose from the 7-year itch. 30 Minutes Over Tokyo features a Monroe robot. Treehouse of Horror 14. Professor Frink tells Bart and Lisa his father worked on the atom bomb by day, slept with Marilyn Monroe by night, and sold secrets to the Russians at lunch. Mo apes the subway great pose from the 7-year itch on disc 4 of the season 6 DVD set menu. Dr. Marvin Monroe's original first name was Marilyn. Smash. Main plot concerns the planning of a Broadway musical about Monroe. Sordid Lives. The series. The Fall and Rise of Brother Boy. Ty is shown Monroe's ukulele from Some Like It Hot. Warehouse 13. Lovesick. Monroe's hairbrush turns hair platinum blonde when used. What's My Line? August 21, 1960. Mystery guest Buddy Hackett signs in as Marilyn Monroe. Zoe 101. Haunted House. Zoe dresses as Monroe for Halloween. See also, imdb.com. Marilyn Monroe. Character. Page. Theater. After the Fall. Maggie is based on Monroe. Blood Brothers. 2 songs called Marilyn Monroe. Finishing the Picture. Kay is based on Monroe. Insignificance. 1982. By Terry Johnson. The actress is based on Monroe. Miss Golden Dreams. 2001. By Joyce Carol Oates. Marilyn. 1975. By Adam Darius. Marilyn. An American Fable. 1983. Marilyn and Ella. 2008. By Bonnie Greer. Marilyn Forever Blonde. 2007. Marilyn's Second Chance. 2009. And Marilyn Monroe. My Secret. 2013. By Willard Manas. Nobody Dies on Friday. 1998. By Robert Brustein. Monroe is a Character. Norma Jean. The Musical. 2013. Songs written by Jay Aston. Strawhead. 1986. Wilhelm Reich in Hell. 1987. Monroe is a Character.